Hello everybody, my name is Dr. Boris Gomelsky. I am professor and principal investigator at aquaculture program of Kentucky State University. My lecture will be on Japanese ornamental carp, or koi. In this lecture, I will give you some general information about this interesting fish. First of all, several words about the history of the koi. What is it, koi? Koi is ornamental form of common carp. Common carp, maybe you know that it is widespread in the United States, but actually carp, common carp, is invasive species. It's very common in Europe, in Asia, but to North America, in other parts of the world, it was delivered intentionally, because in Europe and in Asia, this is popular aquaculture species. So people raise this fish as a fish for food, as edible fish. And actually, about 130 years ago, in about 1880, 1890s, it was idea to bring common carp to US, also in order to raise common carp as fish for food. But finally, it's happened that common carp have not become actually aquaculture species, but nevertheless, now it's everywhere in very many water body, rivers, lakes, reservoir in the United States. Now it's considered nuisance species. So practically koi are color mutants of common carp. And koi have been developed in Japan. It's interesting that koi, it's mean in Japanese as carp, any type of carp. Carp with wild color and also ornamental, fancy carp. But for koi, for ornamental carp, it is in other words. It's called nishikigoi. It's actually literally, it means brocaded carp. So when Japanese, they talk about koi, as we understand, as color carp, they use these words, nishikigoi. Actually, now you will see these words in some books, which I will show you. So here you can see one of the first book on koi, which was written by Japanese writer. And you can see it's called Manual to Nishikigoi. So this is, as I said, actually Japanese people, they do not use koi as ornamental carp, this word, which is, because this word koi, it's very simple, therefore it was become very popular in other country all over the world to name color carp. If you can see here another book, this is most recent book, more recent book. It was written by authors, writers from South Africa. You can see here, it is koi, but below also subtitle, a handbook on keeping nishikigoi. So this is actually koi as word, as we understand, as color carp, but also mention nishikigoi as more correct term. First color fish were found in early 1800s among common carp reared for food in small terraced pond in Niigata province. In this slide, you can see how these terraced ponds are looked. So you can see that in some these ponds, people raise rice and also pond for fish. For initially they raised koi, common carp for food, but now they mostly raise koi, ornamental carp. I work with koi about 25 years, more than 25 years, and actually I performed some joint studies with Japanese scientists, and actually that picture which you saw, Niigata province, actually I have taken myself when I visited university of my Japanese colleague, and also we traveled together to Niigata province, which, as I said, homeland of koi. Currently, about 13-14 main color types of koi are known. In this picture you can see about 8 of them. These are the most popular. The most popular color type of koi is kohaku. First of all, as I said, that koi originated in Japan. Therefore, actually all terminology of koi actually Japanese. So koi hobbyist, advanced koi hobbyist, or koi producer, they actually know this terminology. Therefore, these color types, they're also named in Japanese. So the most popular color type of koi is kohaku. This actually white fish with red patches, which you can see on the upper left photo. Also very popular are three color fish: white, red, black. It is interesting. There are two types of three color fish. One type is called Teisha Sanshoku, or in short name Sanke. You can see here on the left of these three color types. It is interesting that this fish is considered white fish, white background color, with red and black patches. In this picture, on the right of these three color types, it's Showa Sanshoku, or in abbreviation short name Showa. This fish considered black fish with white and red patches. So you see, both of these type are three color, but actually different background color. The same actually is true for two black-white fish. For example, here you can see Becca, white fish with black patches. While Utsuri, in the lower left corner picture, you can see black fish with white patches. Also, a very popular color type of koi is tencha. Actually, this is, you can see, this fish should have actually one round spot of red on the forehead. And also it's important that no other red marks should be on the body. No, because this is actually kind of similar to Japanese flag, national flag, rising sun. Also, because color variability, there are some other types of koi which not connected with color modification, color types. For example, in this picture you can see long fin or butterfly koi. This type of koi is very popular in the United States. And actually, this butterfly koi has been obtained by crossing long fin carp, wild type color carp, it was found mutation in Indonesia, and actually this fish have been crossed with koi, and finally long fin or butterfly koi have been developed. As I said, in United States and other countries this type is very popular, while in Japan they consider this type of koi, long fin, as not satisfy their standard. They considered long fin should be in goldfish, in other ornamental species, but not in koi. Also, you can see here koi on the left picture. This is actually so-called trait sparking scales, or in Japanese jinrin. On the left you can see koi with jinrin, and on the right side, right photo, this is normal non-jinrin koi. So why scales are very sparking? Because they contain excessive amount of guanine. This is pigment which made fish scales reflective. So the larger amount of guanine gives this very specific trait. It is also interesting that at Kentucky State University we investigated inheritance of this trait, for example, sparking scales, and also mutation of long fins in our studies, and we published several articles on these subjects. Now koi is very popular ornamental fish all over the world. So another name of koi, therefore, it's living jewels of the Orient. And there are actually many clubs of koi all over the world, and many clubs of koi which are in the United States. Multicolor koi are unique fish because it's practically impossible to find two individual fish which are exactly the same. And based on size, location, and intensity of color, the value of the given fish is determined. So here you can see kohaku. This is, as I said, these are white fish with red patches, and you can see how these patches are variable. And here description of different subtypes of kohaku. So as I said, value of this fish, of given fish, depends on how these patches, their size, and how they are located on the body. And because actually koi are very individual, therefore actually, as I said, there are many clubs of koi which actually kind of unite koi hobbyists. Also, these clubs and society, they organized koi show. You can see here, for example, National Koi Show in Japan. And so they actually, special judges, they actually evaluate koi, and they choose all Japan champions. Shows are also organized in club all over United States. So how koi can be kind of obtained? No, first of all, they can, is traditional way, they can be bought, purchased in pet store, only can be bought in from actually fish farm where koi are produced. Now it's possible actually, you can see this screenshot of website. So now it's possible to find koi on internet, because many fish farms, they have their own website. You can see fish which you want to buy. You can see here, for example, there is several grades, standard grades and select grade. So the more color types is more beautiful, higher level, they be more expensive. Also, actually, larger fish, they are more expensive than small fish, because actually in order to raise them, it was spent of space and food. In this website, you can see here this each fish is sold actually individually. You can see this even indicated who is breeder. Apparently, this fish from directly from Japan, because koi originated from Japan. They are still higher, considered higher quality than koi produced in the United States. In some websites, besides picture of fish, you can see video of how this fish swim, because actually when during the koi show, competitive show, it's not about only color pattern. They should be in good health and good swimming style. And finally, this you can see here, screenshot from eBay. Through eBay, from koi producer, you can kind of buy, you can look and buy koi as you want. I would like to know that sometimes I compare koi with regard to koi price with dog. Maybe it will be a kind of, it's some similarity. So some dog you can get, for example, for $30–50, but if this is kind of purebred dog, and especially winner of dog show, it can cost several $1,000s. Koi is the same. So this actually you can buy in pet store for $5–10, but large koi, which of show quality, especially which have been exposed or winner in koi show, also can cost actually several $1,000s. And if you would, if you look on internet, you can see. So, but as I said, this is koi, so the same as dog. This is for everybody, for any level of interest, of any level of the level of cost of this animal. But also, I would like to add that I compared with dog breeds, but usually dog breeds are very uniform. There is some standard. In koi is different. Actually, koi, they are very variable. When we cross, for example, kohaku with some patches, in progeny will be huge, large variability. Therefore, fish which are very valuable, based on some criteria how these patches should be located, it's very hard to find, because this may be 1 per 1,000 or 1 to 10,000 or even 100,000. Therefore, some fish are very expensive. So, why koi are good fish for raising in recirculating and aquaponic system? There are several reasons. First of all, as I said, common carp is actually popular aquaculture species in many countries. And koi is the same as common carp. They are hardy fish and can tolerate not very good condition, for example, low oxygen content, high density. Also, koi adaptive to very wide range of water temperature. They actually spawn at temperature higher than 18 degrees C, but for rearing it is best temperature 23–26 degrees C. So based on rearing temperature, they may be considered as warm water species. warm water fish, but nevertheless, koi, the same as common carp, tolerant to cold weather, and during winter they can survive in outdoor ponds covered with ice. As I said also, the koi, they are nice and multicolored fish. They look nice and can be sold for a good price. Also important kind of feature that koi are raised as an ornamental fish, and therefore in the end of raising there is no need to sacrifice fish, in contrast to raising fish for food, for example fish as tilapia. So now I will describe koi spawning, how koi are produced. Koi can be spawned by two main methods: natural spawning and artificial spawning. In the case of natural spawning, fish spawn in ponds or large tanks themselves when will be good condition, input of fresh water, good temperature, presence of substrate on the bottom. In case of artificial spawning, fish breeders, female and males, are injected with hormones for stimulation of spawning. And during artificial spawning, eggs are fertilized artificially and then incubated in special incubation jars. So at Kentucky State University, we reproduce koi artificially by artificial spawning, and in further next slide I will describe this process. As I said, in order to stimulate artificial spawning, we inject fish with hormones. Here you can see moment of injection. Injection of hormones actually transfer fish to spawning condition, and actually eggs and sperm can be stripped from females and male respectively. So you can see here stripping of eggs from female, koi female, and eggs are collected in a bowl. Similarly, you can see here collection of sperm from male. Here how we perform fertilization of eggs. You can see here on the left photo that we added some amount of sperm to eggs. After that, you can see that sperm and eggs are mixed. Before water is added, actually this is only mechanical mixing, but no fertilization process occurs. Actually, water activates sperm and eggs, and after addition of water, spermatozoa start to move, and they fertilize eggs during about 1-2 minutes. And you can see here that we stir eggs with feathers, because feather is good kind of tool, because it does not, feathers does not kind of damage eggs. And after that, after adding water, milk solution, practically this is milk, cow milk diluted with water. In natural condition, when koi or carp spawn, eggs are very adhesive. In natural condition, they attach to grass, leaf, rocks. But in order to incubate eggs in McDonald's jars, we need actually to prevent adhesiveness of eggs. We should actually make eggs separate. If not to treat, they will clumps. The eggs will form clumps. It will be difficult to incubate them. So for this purpose, we add milk solution. And in bowls, we kind of continue to add diluted milk, and we permanently store eggs for about 1 hour. After that, eggs are placed in McDonald's jars for further incubation. You can see here McDonald's jars incubating eggs. Actually, in McDonald's jars, there is water supply, and actually eggs are moving, they are in permanent moving, because of kind of water moves them, and this is good condition for incubation. And the rate of embryonic development depends on water temperature. At 20 degrees C, embryonic development lasts about 3 days. So it's the embryo in koi, they develop quickly, relatively quickly. You can see here these embryos under dissecting microscope. We can see yolk sac and also body of embryos. You can see head part with eyes and tail part. And hatched larvae, they swim out from jars to find mesh cages, or sometimes these cages are called hapas. In 3-4 days after hatching, larvae swim up and begin external feeding. Swim up, it means that larva acquired swim bladder or small air bubble. It gives actually possibility to larvae really swim and control their position in water. At this time, larvae, swim-up larvae, are ready to be stocked in ponds or tank for further raising. Here you can see also larvae in hapas. And here you can see picture of photos of larvae. And length of koi larvae is about 6.5 millimeters, or about quarter-inch. And also you can see on the upper photo that some larvae have melanin black pigment, some not. And also in this larvae, this is, as I said, this larvae are swim up, you can see clearly swim bladder, small air bubble in the middle. At Kentucky State University, I teach course for students which is called Fish Reproduction and Spawning Techniques. And we have actually several labs on spawning of different fishes. And one lab is on spawning of koi. Actually, we recorded process of koi spawning, which I briefly described in previous slides. And actually, part of these videos on koi spawning we put on YouTube portal. Here you can see we put actually 5 different videos on koi spawning, and each part kind of describe every stage of koi breeding. From this video, the most popular one is actually method of artificial fertilization of eggs. And you can see that number of viewers, it's more than 500,000. And also interesting that YouTube, they provided actually statistics. And we kind of saw that based on statistics provided by YouTube, there are viewers of this video from 200 countries all over the world. Actually, people from North and South America, Africa, Europe, and Asia, they watch this video. This shows that koi and koi reproduction, spawning. It's very popular, and people are very interested in this fish and in reproduction of this fish. So if you will be interested, you can go to YouTube and type koi demonstration video, and several links of these videos will show up. For further rearing, we stock larvae to large outdoor tanks, which are supplied with water from a reservoir. From the beginning, larvae eat small plankton organisms, and then we start feeding them with scrambled artificial feed, but they also they continue to eat plankton, live food. Actually, live food from the beginning, it's very important, is give fish to develop better color. And you can see from the beginning on this picture that from the beginning grown larvae, they light yellows, but no bright color which appeared later. And during about 1.5 to 2 months, larvae grow and transform into juveniles or miniature adults. This so-called transforming of larvae to juveniles is called metamorphosis. And from this time, as a juveniles, fish can be stocked in tanks or recirculating an aquaponic system for further rearing. Koi, the same as common carp, are bottom feeders. In natural condition, they mostly eat benthic organisms. This means that organisms which are located on the bottom or near the bottom. This is all kind of worms, mosquito larvae, and others. Therefore, it is more natural for this fish, for koi, to consume sinking artificial food. Nevertheless, koi readily eat floating food from water surface, especially in tanks. When in ponds, usually fish do not readily go when bright light, sunlight. For them it's better to go to surface to swim up in morning hours or evening hours when sunlight not so bright. But in tank of indoor recirculating system, it's no problem, light not so bright, so they can swim up and eat floating fish from water surface. And it is recommended to feed koi in tanks of recirculating system with floating food, because it allows to control more easily the amount of uneaten food. Especially it's important if mechanical or biological filters are not working properly. Here you can see approximate feeding rate of koi as percentage of body weight. You can see that actually amount of food increase with increase of temperature. From the other hand, along with fish grow, actually weight is higher, the percentage of feeding rate decrease. And actually based off this table, you can actually evaluate approximate amount which you should give for koi feeding. And also you can see that in the footnote in this table, I noted that if koi are raised in a recirculation water system, the feeding rate should be adjusted according to capacity of biological and mechanical filters. Again, if filters do not working properly, or it's not so large capacity of filter, better to give less food than too much food. Should be the general principle. It is interesting, the same that other fish from this family, these carps, or in Latin cyprinids, koi do not have stomach, but they have straight intestinal tract. And for this reason, food cannot be stored in the digestive tract for a long time or in large amount. Therefore, it's better to feed koi with many small meals per day. For example, it's possible maybe 4 or 5, at least twice a day, rather than one big meal. And another principle, that in each feeding, food should be eaten completely during 30-40 minutes. Thank you for your attention.